A handshake, an embrace, up close and personal, socializing, in the same space and place with tens, hundreds, even thousands of people. All of the above, gone. At least for now. All of this in an attempt to protect humanity from a sinister and deadly adversary, the coronavirus, COVID-19. This pandemic has taken a devastating toll on global populations. Millions of people infected, millions unemployed, hundreds of thousands dead, economies in crisis, and global public health immersed in a battle with an invisible enemy. In the Caribbean, the story is pretty much the same. Governments, societies, fighting to protect their economies, fighting to save lives. How are we dealing with this? Well, we're putting our best foot forward. We are coping with COVID-19 in the Caribbean.
In the Caribbean,
in the COVID-19,
like leading
social distancing.
Recorded one. Spoke to journalists from St. Lucia, Antigua and Barbuda.
There is no need for fear or panic.
Meet Hensa, a recovered COVID-19 patient whose introduction to the virus came via a dizzy spell and a mad rush to urgent care. Hensa barely remembers what happened, but this is his recollection.
You know, after hearing all the COVID talk and what leads up to it, I started feeling some symptoms. I started getting a cough, and I told my wife that, look, I don't feel too good. We want to check out this thing, because I didn't want to take any chance. So my daughter came up and she said, let's go and check out the emergency care at Woods, on the 25th. It was on the 25th. And we went there, they did an EKG, did some blood tests, and I had to do 4 hours after to go back to do a second EKG, and they didn't find anything. So I went back to my regular doctor.
After consulting with his doctor, Hensa was put on drips because he was dehydrated. He spent a few hours at the doctor's office and was then allowed to go home.
The next day, I think I was feeling a little better. That was the Sunday. By the Monday, temperature started acting up. And let me roll back a little. I had a dizzy spell. And that was when my wife said, look, something is not right.
Hensa's temperature went from ground zero to extremely high levels. The health authorities were notified and a test was administered at his house. Hensa and his family anxiously awaited the test results. The news? Not what anyone wants to hear.
Some days after they call and say the test was positive. I didn't feel scared or anything, you know. I never had that kind of fear. But they said not to leave the yard, not to allow anybody to come in, and I have to be, and have to stay isolated for another 2 weeks.
Let's take a look at another scenario. Kelly is a designer and a small business owner. He tells us how he is coping with COVID-19.
COVID has caused a ripple negative reaction. And I'll speak from my business point of view. So we have no more social events. So clients no longer have interest in making or creating anything. So you had like bookings, all those got cancelled. I had 4 brides booked between March and July, I think. Yeah, all those got cancelled. So it has been very negative. Coping as best as I can, because I think even though we're faced with this challenge, I don't think stressing about it is going to help at all. So coping as best as I can.
CEO of Corporate Security Consultants Anthony Athill shares a similar mindset. He delves a bit deeper on the effect of COVID-19 on the business community.
I would say it's devastating, but what we have done as a company is try to mitigate losses by constantly reviewing our revenue and our expenses and continually adjusting to suit. We, off the top, based on the first study that we did, first 30 days after the quarantine took place, we lost over 60% of our revenue, and it is continuing to decline. Some of us are fortunate because we have good banking support, and I think the banks in general have been relatively good. But if you have to think about it on a long-term basis, I'm not so sure the banks are going to be able to continue to support you after a 6-7 month period. We will be on our own. That's when I think most those businesses that are teetering on survival are not going to survive.
Antiguan entertainer Menace is still coming to terms with the unfortunate global events that have unfolded as a result of COVID-19.
Well, on a holistic approach of it, if you look at it, COVID has affected everybody in a seemingly negative way. Economically, everybody is head in hand trying to find where they're going to make the next move or how the future will unfold in the few coming months. So the uncertainty is very alarming. We tend to try to look for better days, stay positive, and even trying to figure out when we think this will actually play out. But for now, we don't have any idea what's going to happen. We don't know how the public is going to feel when they come back out. If FETs are going to be actually in things still. We're trying to be more virtually adaptive and trying to stay virtually current, but it doesn't have the feel. We, as human beings, we're missing the social element. We're missing the hugs, the hi-fi, the camaraderie of jumping with your friends, or sharing a drink. It's something that is going to be a topic for years to come, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. Just trying to look from a positive standpoint. I'm glad to be a part of it, because I would not believe this if somebody told me in the later times in the future. I would not.
Needless to say, the economic impact of COVID-19 has everyone in some sort of disarray. All are affected. Recovered COVID-19 patient Hensa is hopeful.
That's another thing. I just hope we can get things normalized so that people can get back to work. Because it's when you look around and see so many people and not, and that is where my fear comes in. People not working, not having anything particular to do. You know, we could be in a crisis situation.
Here's the question. In the midst of this pandemic, what really keeps us going? How do we deal with the issues at hand? The financial, the mental, the threat to public health, the fake news, and that nagging fear of dying. How do we stay focused? Kelly continues to think outside the box.
Well, as you know, I started a face mask couture collection, which took off very well, thankfully. And so that has kept me focused. I get up every day, there's a pile of order I need to finish by the day end, take the next set of orders to the next day. So it's, as much as the news is scaring you and all that, I try to stay focused on my work. And also my grandmother is very God-fearing, and so there's certain values she has instilled in us. And so she makes it easier. Like in times like these, you shouldn't really, be fearful, but trust more, love more, find comfort in things that would keep you sane. That's pretty much what I've been doing.
Menace has a different approach.
Outside of entertainment, I went back to my roots. I'm from the countryside, so I picked back up a few hobbies, fishing to be one. I went back into more agricultural-based activities. I noticed a lot of persons are doing that. But you just have to get back to your roots, what you normally know what to do to survive. Start selling fruit, start selling vegetables, and trying to invest and get a little bit more diverse in terms of your revenue stream. Because we look to one part and one part only, now it's affected. Everybody's scared. So basically we're trying to get a boat running. We do a little bit here and there, fishing here and there. And we just try to keep ourselves active to ease the mental frustration.
Dr. Terry-Ann Joseph says anxiety and stress levels are at an all-time high. She makes these recommendations.
So I think the first thing we need to do is have a change in perspective. So yes, things are uncertain, things are different, but the reality is life is dynamic and things will always change and something will always come. I think what's important is for us to accept the things that we can change, and the things that we can change, work on those systematically, and the things we can't change, just let it go.
Anthony Athill shares his coping mechanism, finding that place, fighting anxiety, depression.
I think all of us are having our own little moments. How you deal with it is the most important thing. And I think in my case, I tend to deal with loss with a sense of humor. I tend to make people laugh, just to give them a lighter moment, to take their minds off. All of us have to be very careful that we become undiagnosed depressives. Even before this, we as Antiguan men do not show weakness. We don't show that we don't tell anyone we're depressed or we're sad or we're going through a difficult moment. We feel as though it makes you seem less than a man. Caribbean men like to be perceived to be strong. I think this is that moment where most Caribbean men or most Caribbean persons need to accept that we've lost control. We have no control over this situation here. And your partners and your friends are the ones that you have to lean on now to ensure that, we don't slip down that slippery slope of, at that point, it could get to suicide in some issues.
So the first thing you want to do is consider what coping techniques you used before and tap into those. So if you liked to sing before, sing. You like to dance, dance. You like to cook, cook. And, probably try something new as well. So you find once you keep engaged, you keep active, your mind is active, then that's one way of coping. So learn something new. You used to cook very well, but you're not able to bake? Okay, try baking, Another thing you can also do is get sleep. Sometimes it's very difficult, but sleep is going to be very important. So you want to get 8 hours of unbroken sleep, and you want to pay special attention to your nutrition. Food, types of food you eat is going to be absolutely important. And so you want to make sure that you get all the nutrients you need. So very, very, very balanced diet, and you want to take your vitamins. Exercise, because when you exercise, happy hormones get released. And so you feel happy, you feel good about yourself, you have energy, you're able to think clearly. And again, I cannot emphasize enough, focus on the things you can change and let go of the things that you can't.
There's a message here in the midst of all of this. Hensa pretty much sums it up.
I'm saying I hope people are not careless and just go about as if nothing is happening, And my thing is, once they maintain the the sanitary situation, all the protocols, I think we can pull out of this thing without having any more casualty. Just as long as people don't get careless.
It is important that we follow the rules and guidelines of the Ministry of Health here in Antigua and Barbuda. Practice proper hygiene. Wash your hands thoroughly. Practice social distancing. Wear your mask when leaving your house. Follow trusted news sources only. Cover your mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing. If there is no tissue available, cough or sneeze into your upper sleeve. Contact your health facility or physician immediately if you are experiencing fever, coughing, and/or difficulty breathing. On the next episode of Coping with COVID-19 in the Caribbean, we take a closer look at the psychological impact of the pandemic. We meet Roxanne. She too has dealt with COVID-19 head-on. And Charmaine, a public health professional, shares her coronavirus experience with us. We are coping with COVID-19 in the Caribbean. Antigua Barbuda, we got this. Coping with COVID-19 in the Caribbean is funded by the Pan American Health Organization.